mentioned to you guys, right? There are three methods to solve this problem. So the first method is we using our formula, we construct our formula, and we put in our formula, and then we just compute it out, right? Calculate them out. The second step is this, which is again, someone create the normal distribution chart for you. Okay, someone create a normal distribution chart for you in the sense that they go in and they just basically do a bunch of binomial distribution and they record it because it's the same, based on the same number all the time. Okay, so this thing here, pretty much if you were to do on your homework, and you click on the table, they will pop up this table, which is the appendix A, which is again table A1, which is table A1. This is all of the binomial distribution probability. So again, looking at this thing here, this is what they tell you is, again, don't worry about formula. This is what we have. They give you the N, they give you the X, and they give you the probability of here. Okay. So what I did on the slide, what I did on here was I took out the problem we did, right? What was our problem? Our problem, if you go into your pop-up test, and you have 10 questions, everybody see the N here is 10 question, and the probability is 50%, which is 0.5. Everybody see that, looking at this thing here, this is the table that they have in terms of the total number of items is 10, and the probability is 0.5. And now remember, our first question was, if we were to have this, what is the probability of you have exactly 4 items, which is, again, everybody see exactly 4 items. Our answer last time, our answer was 0.2051 or 0.20507 when we calculate, when we plug in the formula, which is this table, they give it to you right here. Everybody see that this table they give us, which is, again, we know that the N is 10, which is we have 10 questions. We know the probability of each question is 50%, 0.5, right? And again, exactly 4, this is our answer, which is the second method to find a binomial distribution is basically you go into this table and extract out what they ask us, which is, in this case, they want exactly 4. So to be exactly 4, we go to the 4, which is X is 4. We take out this answer, which is, this is the answer we're looking for. And if they were to ask you, remember part B, they ask you what? They ask you fewer than 3. Do you agree fewer than 3 is this item here? Is the 2, the 1, and the 0, which is, all I need to do is take this 3 items, add them up. And if you add this thing up, last time you see that it was 0.0547, right? So again, if you add this thing up, this thing will be 0.055 because they round up, right? So again, this is the same as before, which is the same as this thing here. It's the same as this answer. If you remember, the answer we give you was 0.0547, right? We have 4 decimal places, which is, again, looking at this thing here, if you using the table, if you take 0.044 plus 0.010 plus 0.001, if you add this 3 number, you will get close to that, which is 0.55. Okay, so the second method, hopefully you say, oh, the second method is easy. I don't need to do any calculation. I don't need to plug into any formula. I just need to ask myself, well, what fit the description that they asked me, right? The exact 4, I go to the 4, I take out the probability, I'm done. The at least 4, not at least 4, fewer than 3, I just take the 2, the 1, and the 0. And lastly, if they ask you more than 7 or more, right? The question they ask you 7 or more, which is everybody agree that 7 or more is this. This is a 7, this is an 8, this is a 9, this is a 10, which is if I add this 4 number up, If I were to add this 4 number up, I will get the same answer as I have in part C last time. Okay, so again, this one here, someone plug into that formula that you plug in to do individually. They did it here, they listed out for you. Again, this thing here, 0.000 plus, meaning it's very small. It's like 0.00000 something, right? Very, very small. It's kind of impossible to get it. Okay, so they just put that it's very small in that way. It's not really zero. Okay. The problem with this second method, ladies and gentlemen, if you see, the problem of this second method is the probability is fixed, right? It's only 5%, 10%, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, right? If I ask you if my probability come out to be 15%, well, there's nothing on this chart that we can use, right? Even 55, we cannot use it. So there is a limitation here, because looking at this thing here, someone did it for you, but the probability that they did it is kind of the common one, right? If they have something that uncommon, like 47%, or the probability is, the chances of is 47%, we won't be able to do it. Okay, so again, but I just want to show you that there is a way in terms of you can look at this. You can look at this distribution, which is they did it for you. And again, on the homework, I think they say using the binomial distribution table, which is this table here, to do it, to answer the question, which is they want to use this. Okay. So again, like I mentioned earlier, there are 3 methods, which is the first one, you compute it by yourself, plug into formula, calculate it. Method 2, we extract the answer from the table. But this thing here is limited to this probability only, right? If it's 89, we cannot do it, right? So the last item, which is the last way to calculate this probability, is using your calculator. Right? So in your calculator, there is a built-in formula. The built-in formula, the formula that we did it by hand earlier, in our example 2, we did it by hand earlier. There is a built-in formula, which is your built-in formula. You need to do the built-in formula. This is where you need to go to, ladies and gentlemen. You need to go into your calculator and hit second, which is, in order to access this feature, you have to hit second VARS, which is the button next to the clear button, the VARS. If you hit on that and you scroll down, go down, you will see that in terms of option 0 will be your binomial PDF, and option not A will be your binomial CDF. Okay. Again, in order to access this feature, you have to hit second VARS, second VARS, and then scroll down to option 0 and option A. Okay. Now, what is the difference between the 2 options? Well, the difference between the 2 options is this, ladies and gentlemen. So this is what we need to do is for binomial PDF. When do we use the binomial PDF versus when do we use the binomial CDF? Well, binomial PDF is when they ask you for a particular point, at one location. Remember in part A earlier, we asked you, or they asked you, is what is the probability you get exactly 4 questions correct, right? So whenever you do at one single point, and this is why I tell my students is PDF is basically, think in terms of P here is for a point, for one given point, for a one given location. That's one point, we do the PDF. If they ask you for a range of item, cumulative item, right? So just think in terms of the C is cumulation, a cumulative item here. If they ask you if you have more than 1 point, if you have multiple points, then we do the binomial CDF, okay? Again, PDF, the X is equal exactly, specifically one location, one number. The CDF is when X is less than or equal to that specific value. Okay, so first of all, question on how to identify where to go in your calculator, how to find this screen here in terms of binomial PDF and binomial CDF. Again, the option might be a little bit different with the 83 and the 84, but again, you can scroll down to see where your binomial PDF versus binomial CDF. Any question on how to identify those two or where to locate those two, I should say.
Can you show us where to find it in the calculator?
Again, you have to hit second. Your calculator, you have to hit second. VARS. You see where my VARS here?
No, nothing's showing up.
You don't see the calculator?
No.
Do you see the calculator now?
No, sir.
Yeah, the calculator's on my screen.
Now we can see it, but I don't know why she can.
On the right hand side, do you see my calculator on the screen on the right hand side right here? I'm moving my mouse over here on the right hand side.
It's still not showing for me. The only thing showing is the example 2 part C. That's it.
Your screen is false on you. I'm on a different slides now.
So do I just leave the meeting and come back?
Right click on can you refresh somehow? I don't know how can you refresh. You can leave the meeting and come back. But right now we're on a different slide from Port C. Port C is been gone. Anyone have problem on how to locate your calculator or how locate your feature on your calculator here? We'll go back to this location of calculator again when we get to the problem. But now, ladies and gentlemen, here comes the next thing, or the next important thing I want to point out is this. Your calculator do a lot of wonder, but it's only as good as you are, right? Meaning again, if you input the right answer, they will output the right answer. If you input the wrong item, they will output the wrong item. So again, the calculator is only as good as a user. So one thing is, the small limitation is this, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, binomial CDF, what do? They only calculate the item on the left-hand side, the item less than or equal to that value, okay? If they were to ask you for the item on the right-hand side, which is port C, they ask you for number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10. If they ask you for the item on the right-hand side, your calculator cannot do that calculation, okay? So one thing is we can adjust it. We can manipulate our calculator to do that calculation, which is how do we do that? Do you agree that the maximum probability is equal to 1? That's the maximum probability is equal to 1. So if they ask you for the item on the left-hand side, we use the binomial CDF, that's your answer. If they ask you for the item on the right-hand side, all we do is we do the left-hand side and then we take 1 minus the answer to give us the right-hand side, okay? So again, when we go to the problem, you will see a little bit clearer, but I want to point out that the binomial CDF is only appear or is only calculate on the left-hand side, okay? So let's take a look at the example. Let's take a look at the example and then we can use our calculator to calculate this thing here. So this is your typical question. Your typical question or typical example is this. In the recent years, 20% of video gamers have heard of the game Modern Warfare 2. Based on this data from GameBeat, right? Assume that not 18 gamers are randomly sampled, right? So again, the population of gaming is big. We only take 18 of them, right? So assume that 18 gamers are randomly sampled. And part A, they ask you compute the probability that exactly 4 of them have heard about this game, Modern Warfare 2, right? So one thing is when you do this thing here, like I mentioned earlier, is to do this problem, we need three things. What are the three things we need? Reminder, we need the N. We need to know how many trial, how many people in this case that we need to sample, which is we need to know our N, which is in this case, my N is equal to 18. We need to know my P, which is what is my P? Well, in this case, my P is equal to 0.20 because of the 20% of a gamer know about this game. Right, so everybody see that my P here is whatever the percentage that they give us, the percent of people know, meaning again, 20% of the people will successfully know this game. 80% of people will not know about this game, okay? So again, that's the idea in terms of the probability of success and the probability of failure, okay? So in this case, this is the two things we need is we need an N, we need a P, and now we need the X. So like I mentioned, if you can find this three item, that's what we have is the N, the P, and the X. So now the other thing is once you identify this three item, now you have to ask yourself, do I use binomial PDF or binomial CDF? Reminder, if you see exactly 4, meaning exactly at that location, then we use the binomial PDF. Okay, so let's take a look at this calculator. Everybody's, you guys see a calculator on my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So now, if you take this calculator to identify or to go to this feature, you have to hit second VARS and scroll down to option, for this one here, option 0, which is again, binomial PDF. Everybody see that I select this option binomial PDF, then I press enter. Okay. If you have TI-84, your life is a little bit easier because now your screen should have a trial, a number for trial, the number for P, and the number for X. Then you just type in the trial is your N, the P is 0.2, and the X is 4. So if you have 84, life is good. If you have 83, not that bad, right? This is what you need to type in is you need to type in the total, which is you need to type in the N, which is your N is 18. You type in 18, comma, then you need to type in your P, which is your P is 0.20, comma, you need to type in your X, and then you close it up. So again, this is what you have is the N, which is the total, the P, which is the probability, and the X, which is the number of successful trial. And again, once you do that, you just press enter, and your answer should be 0.215328, or in this case, if we're looking for 4 decimal place, which is 0.2153. Okay, so again, this is what you guys need to type in exactly on your calculator, which is binomial PDF 18, 0.20, 4. And again, if whoever have the TI-84, like I say, if you have a window prompt, it's easy on you guys, which is they just tell you to type in the N, type in the P, and type in the X, and they calculate, enter, and they give you that. So first of all, question on anybody do not have 0.2153 on your calculator. And again, why do we use PDF? Because they ask us for the exact one location. Okay. Now, looking at this thing here for part B, they ask you find the probability of fewer than 3. So just like before, right? Just like before, fewer than 3 meaning a group of number. Fewer than 3 meaning the 2, the 1, and the 0. Just like your test question earlier, right? Fewer than 3 meaning the 2 question, the 1 question, and the 0 question. So because we have a group of number, instead of do individually at 1 point, your calculator do everything in terms of accumulate them all together, which is we using the binomial CDF. Okay. But the problem coming is, ladies and gentlemen, what is my endpoint? Do you agree that my endpoint is not at the 3, right? My endpoint is at the 2, right? Because again, it's include the 0, the 1, and the 2. Those are the items that is fewer than 3. Okay, so once you identify that this x, my endpoint is at 2, which is, remember, the binomial CDF, they calculate the number less than en equal to that endpoint, which is we go up to number 2, right? So looking at this thing here, if you do your calculator as the same thing as before, the only thing different is you hit second VARS, and you have to go down to binomial CDF. And once you hit binomial CDF, we have to type in the total, which is 18, comma, the probability is 0.20, comma 2, which is, again, once you type this thing in, you press enter, the calculator will calculate for you, which is, again, in terms of this thing here, you will have 0.2713. Question on how I use my calculator, which is, again, hopefully you guys say, oh, this is way easier than the table or than the other one, which is, again, that's the thing about the calculator is they save you time, but like I mentioned, the hardest part is knowing what information to punch in your calculator, right? So first of all, question with A or B. So A or B is your standard question, right? They ask you for one exact point, we use PDF. They ask you for a group of number on the left-hand side, we use CDF. Now, let's take a look at this thing here. Find the probability that more than 3 of them have heard about this game. So do you agree that more than 3 is on the right-hand side? Meaning, again, think about this thing here, think about this number line. Think about this number line. Don't worry about this item. Don't worry about the don't worry about this 19 and so on. I cannot erase it. All right, don't worry about this 19, this number. Just forget about that number. Let's say that we have 18 people right here from 0 to 18, right? And the question asked us is, find the probability that is more than 3, was it? Find the probability of more than 3 people, right? So more than 3 people, do you agree that more than 3 people tell me that 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, 7 people, all the way up to 18 people, right? Do you agree that this is the group of people that is more than 3 people knowing this about this game, right? They actually find the probability of more than 4 people knowing this game. Not more than 4 people, more than 3 people, meaning the 4 people, the 5, the 6, which is, if you do it individually like before, we have to do the 4 plus the 5 plus the 6 plus the 7 all the way up to 18, which is a long way, right? So what can we do? Well, reminder, this is the one thing, your limitation, one item about your calculator is your calculator only calculate on the left-hand side, which is now we have to tell my calculator, hey, calculate to me the 0, the 1, the 2, and the 3. Calculate that number because I'm looking for the item on the right. All I need to do is take 1 minus whatever this thing is, then I will have the item on the right-hand side. Okay, so given that, let's take a look at this thing here, which is, again, if you do this thing here, which is, first of all, we know that our x is equal to 3. Why is 3? Because I'm looking for the item more than 3, which is, in my answer, it had to be the 4, the 5, the 6, the 7, and beyond up to 18. So this is what I need to do is I need to tell my calculator, calculate to me from the 0, the 1, the 2, and the 3, right? That's what binomial CDF is. Whatever this answer is not my answer. Reminder, your calculator can only give you the answer on the left-hand side. But because we're looking for the item on the right-hand side, because we're looking for more than 3, which is to do this, to find this answer, we need to take 1 minus the left-hand side. Everybody understand this item right here? We need, because the answer from the calculator, if you type this thing in your calculator can only give you the left-hand side. And because it's give you the left-hand side, you can say 1 minus the left-hand side to give you the answer as in 0.4990, which is, again, looking at this thing here, everybody see the idea of the left-hand side versus the right-hand side.
Mr. Trang,
Yes.
when I click on second vars and then go down to binomial CDF, it comes up with trials P and X value that I have to.
Right. So the trial is your N. Because you have the TI-84, they give you the param. So the trial is your N. So when on the trial you type in 18, the P is your probability, you type in 0.2, and the X is your X, you type in 3 for number 2.
Okay, it worked this time. Yeah, because I tried it earlier. It was telling me it was having a problem with the other. I think it was B I was doing, but it worked this time.
Yeah, maybe you type in the probability wrong, or you type in, maybe you swap the N and the X, because you know the trial is your N. So the trial is your N and the X is your X.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Okay. So again, the idea of C, one thing about the hardest thing in 5.2 is to recognize what side of the item we try to calculate. Okay. So again, looking at this thing here, like I mentioned, your calculator can only calculate the left-hand side. Remember, this is the item we have here. The item we have here is, again, the binomial CDF will only give you the result of number less than or equal to that X value. So less than or equal to the X value, meaning the only thing is on the left-hand side. But looking at this thing here, we're looking for something more than, meaning something on the right-hand side. And to do that, we have to take 1 minus the left-hand side to give us the leftover, okay? So that's why we have to do one extra step, which is we have 1, which is the maximum probability. 1 is the 100% minus the probability on the left. That's why they give us the complement of this item, which is the item on the right. Okay. So again, that's what we have in terms of part C. Let's take a look at one more, and we will pick up on this thing here. We will pick up on this tomorrow. But again, let's take a look at this thing here. You know, as you can see, looking at this thing here, very, very similar to the previous one, right? According to Newzoo, find that 50% of a Fortnite player are between the age of 10 to 25. Assume that 20 people are randomly sampled. Find the following probability. Find the probability of exactly 7 Fortnite players are between the age of 10 to 25. Find the probability fewer than 6 Fortnite players are between the age of 10 and 25. Find the probability of more than 12 Fortnite players are between the age of 10 and 25. Would this be unusual for 18 or more Fortnite players are between the age of 10 to 25, right? So again, as you can see, looking at this thing here, the first thing you need to recognize is, again, what is my N, which is, do you agree that my N is 20? What is my P? Do you agree that my P is 0.53? Right? And in this case, for A, do you agree that my X is equal to 7? And because it's exact 7, which feature am I using in my calculator? Because it's exactly 7, I have to use the binomial PDF. And once I see that the binomial PDF, which is you type in your calculator, which is 20, your total, 0.53, 0.53 is your probability, and your X is 7, which is, again, hopefully you guys see that the calculation or the arithmetic, once we see the feature on your calculator, arithmetic is not hard. The hardest part is to determine which one am I using, which one are we using, the PDF or the CDF. And again, the other thing is, what is your X, okay? So again, first of all, question with this item we have. Question with this item here. Question on how to use your calculator. Any trouble with your calculator?